During the last 13 days, history has been flying high. Commencing his 45th apostolic journey abroad to Southeast Asia and Oceania, which is also the longest apostolic journey during his papacy, Pope Francis landed at Soekarno-Hatta International Airport in the Indonesian capital Jakarta on September 3rd to a warm welcome. On the following day, September 4th, the Pope received a warm welcome at Jakarta's Merdeka Palace, where President Joko Widodo greeted him personally. After signing the Book of Honor, the Holy Father expressed his hopes for the Indonesian people to grow in faith, fraternity, and compassion. The Pope then met with government officials, civil society representatives, and the diplomatic corps at the Istana Negara.
Semangat perdamaian dan toleransi inilah yang ingin Indonesia bersama Vatikan sebarkan, apalagi di tengah dunia yang semakin bergejolak. Seperti yang kita ketahui bersama, konflik dan perang terjadi di berbagai belahan dunia, termasuk di Palestina, yang telah menelan lebih dari 40.000 korban jiwa. Indonesia mengapresiasi, sangat menghargai sikap Vatikan yang terus menyuarakan, menyerukan perdamaian di Palestina dan mendukung two-state solution.
In his address, Pope Francis stressed the importance of interreligious dialogue as a means to combat extremism. In the afternoon, the Pope had a private meeting with members of the Society of Jesus serving in Indonesia. The Pope then visited the Cathedral of Our Lady of Assumption in Jakarta, where he met with bishops, priests, deacons, consecrated persons, seminarians, and catechists. In his address, the Pope highlighted the three core virtues of his apostolic journey: faith, fraternity, and compassion.
Ciò che manda avanti il mondo non sono i calcoli di interesse che finiscono in genere con distruggere il creato e dividere le comunità, ma la carità che si dona, questo porta avanti, la carità che si dona, e la compassione non offusca la visione reale della vita, anzi ci fa vedere meglio le cose nella luce dell'amore, cioè ci fa vedere meglio le cose con gli occhi del cuore.
Later, the Pope met with the young people of Skolas Occurrentes at the Gra Pemuda Youth House. The Pope also planted a mango tree with the Indonesian education minister and gifted a statue of Mother Mary to Skolas Occurrentes. September 5th was marked with a magnificent expression of cordiality between religions. Pope Francis passed through the iconic Tunnel of Friendship, an underground passage that connects the Cathedral of Our Lady of the Assumption with the Istiqlal Mosque. At Jakarta's Istiqlal Mosque, Southeast Asia's largest, Pope Francis was warmly welcomed by Grand Imam Dr. Nazaruddin Umar. The Holy Father and the Grand Imam signed the joint declaration of Istiqlal 2024, advocating for shared values to combat violence and promote peace.
Vi incoraggio a proseguire su questa strada, che tutti insieme, ciascuno coltivando la propria spiritualità e praticando la propria religione, possiamo camminare alla ricerca di Dio e contribuire a costruire società aperte, fondate sul rispetto reciproco e sull'amore vicendevole, capaci di isolare le rigidità, i fondamentalismi, gli estremismi, che sono sempre pericolosi e mai giustificabili.
Later, Pope Francis met beneficiaries from charitable organizations at the Indonesian Bishops' Conference headquarters. Pope's compassionate embrace of one of the specially abled individuals here was a heart-touching moment. In the evening, the Pope presided over the Holy Mass at Gelora Bung Karno Stadium in Jakarta, attended by around 80,000 people gathered from all over Indonesia. In his homily, the Pope emphasized the need to listen to and live the words of Jesus. On September 6th, the Pope left for Papua New Guinea, where he arrived at Port Moresby Jackson's International Airport to a rousing welcome. On the next day, September 7th, Pope Francis was warmly welcomed at the Government House. Here the Pope was greeted by Sir Bob Wofang-Dada, Governor-General of Papua New Guinea. From there, he proceeded to the APEC House, where he met with the political leaders of Indonesia. In his address, Pope Francis called for better treatment of workers and sustainable development of natural resources, stressed the need for international cooperation, and urged to put an end to violence. Later, he met with approximately 800 children under the care of the Street Ministry and Callan Services at the Caritas Technical Secondary School in Port Moresby. Cordially engaging with the children, the Pope reassured them that everyone is unique before God. The day ended with his meeting with the bishops of Papua New Guinea in the Solomon Islands, as well as priests, deacons, religious, seminarians, and catechists at the Shrine of Mary, Help of Christians.
Cari fratelli e sorelle, ringraziamo insieme il Signore per come il Vangelo attecchisce e si diffonde in Papua Nuova Guinea e nelle isole Salomone. Continuate così la vostra missione come testimoni di coraggio, di bellezza e di speranza. E non dimenticate lo stile di Dio, lo stile di Dio, vicinanza, compassione e tenerezza. Sempre avanti con questo stile del Signore. Vi ringrazio per quello che fate.
Pope's programs on September 8 began with a private meeting with Prime Minister Marape at the Apostolic Nunciature in Port Moresby. It was followed by the Holy Mass in the Sir John Guy's Stadium. The Eucharistic celebration was a unique blend of traditional culture and Catholic faith. Among the attendees of the Mass were key government leaders, including Prime Minister James Marape and Vice President John Rosso. After the Mass, Pope Francis traveled to Vanimo, a remote town on Papua New Guinea's northwest coast. On the flight, he had carried with him a ton of humanitarian aid, including medicine, clothes, and toys for local children. He spent a few hours with local Catholics from the Diocese of Vanimo at the Holy Cross Pro-Cathedral, and in the evening, Pope Francis visited the Holy Trinity Humanities School in Barrow. The Pope personally greeted the children and exchanged gifts with them. The major event on September 9 was the Pope's meeting with young people in the Sir John Guy's Stadium. Over 15,000 young people of Papua New Guinea had gathered in Sir John Guy's Stadium to meet with the Holy Father. Exuberant performances by the youth followed. The young people expressed their dreams for a bright future and shared their concerns with the Holy Father. Two representatives of Papuan youth narrated their moving stories and shared their aspirations with the Pope. Pope Francis invited the youth to acknowledge their frailties and be quick to get up when they fall. With this meeting, the Pope's visit to Papua New Guinea was concluded. He boarded the flight from Jackson's International Airport and left for Timor-Leste, the most Catholic country in the world after the Vatican. Pope Francis was warmly welcomed at Dili Airport in East Timor. After the grand welcome ceremony held outside the Nicolau Lobato Presidential Palace, the Pope had a courtesy meeting with East Timor President José Ramos Horta at the palace. He also met with the authorities, civil society, and the diplomatic corps in the Presidential Palace Hall. One of the major events of September 10th was the Pope's visit to Irmis Alma School in Dili, where he had a deeply moving interaction with children with disabilities. Later, he traveled to the Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception, where he addressed bishops, priests, nuns, seminarians, and catechists. Pope Francis urged the clergy and the religious to spread the fragrance of Christ in their ministry. The day concluded with a grand Eucharistic celebration at the Tasi Tolu Esplanade, where over 600,000 people gathered.
Esta realidad se revela hermosa en Timor-Leste porque hay muchos niños. Y ustedes son un país joven, en el que en cada rincón la vida se siente palpitar y bullir. Y la presencia de cada juventud y de tantos niños es un regalo, es un don inmenso. Renueva constantemente nuestra energía y nuestra vida.
Pope's final day in Timor-Leste began with a very cordial meeting with the young people of East Timor at Centro de Convencos. Over 3,000 young people had gathered at the convention center. Executive President of the National Catholic Youth Commission welcomed the Pope. The representatives of Timorese youth expressed their concerns before the Pope and asked questions about the responsible use of social media use, bridging cultures, and the role of family in fostering faith. In his address, Pope warned against the dangers of drug usage and cyberbullying. Commenting that the young people and the elderly are treasures of society, the Pope exhorted the youth to respect the elderly. He urged them to dream big. With the farewell words, "I leave with a smile, seeing your smiling faces," the Pope boarded the flight from the Dili International Airport to Singapore. After a grand and warm welcome at Singapore Changi International Airport, Pope concluded the programs for the day with a private meeting with members of the Society of Jesus in St. Francis Xavier Retreat Center. The penultimate day of the Pope's Asia-Oceania visit began with a grand welcome ceremony at Singapore's Parliament House. The Pope also had a brief meeting with Singapore's Prime Minister Lawrence Wong. Later, the Pope proceeded to the theatre of the Cultural Centre of the National University of Singapore, where he addressed the authorities and diplomats of the country. Singapore's President, Tharman Shanmugaratnam, in his address, praised the Pope for his efforts to foster harmony and thanked Catholic Church for its priceless contributions. In the afternoon, the Pope presided over a Holy Mass, celebrated at Singapore Sports Hub National Stadium. The Mass was attended by over 50,000 faithful gathered from Brunei and Malaysia apart from Singapore. In his homily, the Pope spoke about the power of love that builds every creation on earth. He also remembered Mother Mary before concluding. On the final day of his historic Asia-Oceania apostolic journey, Pope began his day by visiting a group of elderly and sick people at St. Teresa's home. From there, he proceeded to the Catholic Junior College for the final event of his journey, an interreligious meeting with young people. The history-making Asia-Oceania visit has finally come to an end. Memories and emotions abounded as the Pope waved his hand as symbol of goodbye. It was not just a goodbye. It was a sign of blessing, love and a lifetime of gratitude. Memories will live on. It was a profoundly touching farewell ceremony at Singapore Changi International Airport. He has made a lasting impact in the hearts of everyone he met in the 4 countries of his visit. It will remain for ages to come, and will be passed on from generation to generations. Thank you, dear Pope Francis. God bless you, dear Papa.